I adjusted the small velvet box inside my jacket pocket, feeling the solid weight of the diamond ring. 3 years. For 3 long years, I had worked 12-hour shifts in a cramped cubicle at Carter Marketing, pretending to be nothing more than an entry-level copywriter named Julian Vance. No one in this building knew the truth. No one knew that Vance Media, the giant conglomerate that owned this entire agency, belonged to me. I sacrificed my status because I wanted a normal life. More than that, I wanted to know if Samantha Carter loved me for who I was, not for my family's wealth. Tonight was supposed to be the night where everything came together. The grand banquet hall was filled with soft music, clinking glass, and chatter from executives in tailored tuxedos. I stood near the back, wearing my plain $50 suit, watching Samantha stand near the main stage. She looked stunning in a deep blue silk gown, holding a glass of champagne. "Julian, stop hiding in the corner." I turned around to see Chloe Bennett, our lead junior designer, carrying a stack of event folders. She gave me an encouraging smile, though her eyes looked tired. "Hey, Chloe," I said, offering a small smile. "Just waiting for the announcement." "Are you nervous?" Chloe stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You put in more overtime on the Sterling account than anyone else in the office. If Samantha is fair, that vice president promotion belongs to you." "I hope so," I replied, my fingers lightly touching the velvet box again. "I worked hard for it, and I have something important to ask Samantha after the speech." Chloe glanced at my pocket, noticing the movement, but she just gave me a gentle nod. "You're a good guy, Julian. You deserve the best tonight." "Thanks, Chloe. Go catch your breath before the speech starts." As Chloe walked toward the staff table, the lights dimmed. Samantha stepped up to the microphone, her face bright under the spotlights. The entire room went quiet. "Welcome, everyone," Samantha began, her voice smooth and confident. "Tonight marks a massive turning point for Carter Marketing. Over the past 3 years, our growth has been unstoppable. But to take the next step, we need strong leadership." My heart hammered against my ribs. I took a step forward, catching her eye for a fraction of a second. "Tonight, I am thrilled to announce our new vice president," Samantha continued, her lips curving into a wide smile. "Please welcome the man who brings unmatched prestige and capital to our firm, Marcus Sterling." The room erupted into loud applause. My heart dropped into my stomach. Marcus Sterling walked onto the stage, wearing a 3-piece Italian suit that cost more than my annual base salary. He placed a hand on Samantha's waist and pulled her close, kissing her cheek right in front of the entire company. I stood frozen. Marcus hadn't written a single line of copy. He had been with the company for less than 2 months. Samantha held up a hand to calm the crowd. Then, her eyes scanned the room until they locked directly onto me. Her expression turned cold and distant. "Now, before we open the floor to celebrations, I have one final piece of business to settle." Samantha spoke into the microphone. Her voice echoed off the high ceilings. "Julian Vance, step forward." Whispers broke out across the room. Heads turned toward me. I forced my feet to move, stepping into the center aisle under the harsh glare of the lights. "Yes, Samantha." My voice trembled slightly, though I tried to hold my ground. "You've been hovering around me for 3 years, Julian," Samantha said, not even attempting to hide the contempt in her tone. "You thought that by doing overtime and buying me cheap coffee, you were building a future with me." "Samantha, what are you doing?" I asked quietly. "I am setting boundaries," she snapped, her voice carrying across the entire banquet hall. "Look at yourself, Julian. Look at that cheap, off-the-rack suit. Look at your empty bank account. You work an entry-level job, and you have zero ambition. Marcus brings millions in capital. You bring excuses." Marcus chuckled softly beside her, taking a sip from his glass. "Don't be too hard on the kid, Samantha. Some people are just meant to stay at the bottom." "No, Marcus, he needs to hear this," Samantha sneered. "Julian, you are a broke loser with no future. I am ending whatever little fantasy you had in your head right now. You are fired from Carter Marketing. Pack your things and get out of my sight." A few executives laughed. Others looked away, uncomfortable with the brutal public humiliation. I stood there, feeling the blood rush to my ears, but I didn't cry. The pain in my chest slowly hardened into something cold and sharp. "Is that your final decision, Samantha?" I asked, my voice suddenly dropping all hesitation. "It's the easiest decision I've ever made," she replied coldly. Security will escort you out if you aren't gone in 5 minutes. I turned my back on the stage without saying another word. As I walked toward the exit, Chloe ran up to me near the doors, tears glistening in her eyes. Julian, wait. Chloe grabbed my arm softly. That was horrible. You didn't deserve that at all. Please, let me help you carry your box from your desk. I'm okay, Chloe, I said gently, looking down at her genuine concern. Thank you. You were the only real person in this place. Where will you go? She asked, her voice shaking. What are you going to do now? I pulled the velvet box from my pocket, opened it, and dropped the diamond ring into the trash bin next to the exit door. I'm done playing games, Chloe, I said, looking back one last time at Samantha and Marcus laughing on the stage. The undercover test is over. It's time for me to go back and take control of my empire. The rain pelted against the sleek black windows of the Vance Media Tower as the private elevator carried me to the top floor. I threw my soaked $50 jacket into the trash bin near the lobby entrance. The cheap disguise was gone. The 3-year experiment was over. The elevator doors slid open with a quiet chime, revealing the vast executive penthouse. Standing near the floor-to-ceiling glass windows were 2 people who had waited years for this moment. My grandfather, Arthur Vance, and my younger sister, Elena Vance. Look who finally decided to come home, Elena said, stepping forward with a sharp smile. Her tailored designer blazer creaked slightly as she folded her arms. You look like a mess, Julian. I was tested, Elena, I said, my voice cold and firm as I walked straight toward the main mahogany desk. And the test is over. Grandfather Arthur turned around slowly, resting both hands on his silver-headed cane. His eyes were sharp, searching my face for any weakness. Did you find what you were looking for down there in the dirt, Julian? Did that little marketing firm teach you about human nature? It taught me that loyalty is rare, grandfather. I replied, sitting down behind the primary executive desk for the first time in 3 years. And it taught me who needs to be removed from our portfolio. Good, Arthur said, pressing his cane firmly against the marble floor. The board was getting impatient. Elena has been holding the line, but Vance Media Enterprise needs its true heir at the wheel. The timing couldn't be better, Elena said, tossing a thick blue leather dossier onto the desk in front of me. Read that. Carter Marketing is on the verge of total financial collapse. They spent the last 6 months burning through their reserves to cover up massive operational deficits. Samantha Carter has been hiding the numbers. I opened the file, scanning the financial balance sheets. The numbers were disastrous. She needs an emergency cash injection. Not just an injection, Elena corrected, her tone laced with contempt. She needs a $20 million buyout contract from us, or Carter Marketing goes bankrupt by the end of the month. She booked an emergency funding presentation with our board for tomorrow morning at 9. Does she know who owns Vance Media? I asked, looking up from the pages. She thinks Vance Media is run by an old committee of anonymous investors. Elena chuckled, leaning against the edge of the desk. She has no idea that the entry-level copywriter she fired last night is the sole voting shareholder. I closed the dossier with a sharp thud. Cancel the proxy representatives for tomorrow's meeting, Elena. I will handle the board meeting personally. Arthur smiled, a hard, stern expression that mirrored my own. Show them no mercy, Julian. Remind them what happens when someone disrespects the Vance name. The next morning at 9 sharp, the executive conference room on the 55th floor was silent. 12 high-ranking board members sat along the sides of the massive obsidian conference table, dressed in crisp suits, waiting for my command. I sat at the far head of the table, wearing a custom charcoal Italian suit, my hair styled cleanly back. The heavy oak doors swung open. Samantha Carter walked in first, wearing a bright red power suit, holding a leather presentation binder. Her head was held high, her posture filled with arrogance. Right behind her was Marcus Sterling, grinning foolishly while adjusting his silk tie. Good morning, respected members of the Vance Media Board, Samantha began, keeping her eyes fixed on her folder as she stepped toward the presentation screen. I am Samantha Carter, CEO of Carter Marketing. Beside me is our new Vice President, Marcus Sterling. We are here today to present a strategic partnership that will yield. You didn't look at the head of the table, Miss Carter. Elena interrupted coldly from her seat near my right side. Samantha stopped mid-sentence, startled by Elena's sharp tone. She slowly raised her eyes from her folder, looking past the line of board members until her gaze landed directly on me. Her hand froze in midair. The color instantly drained from her face. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. "J. Julian," Samantha stammered, dropping her leather binder onto the polished floor. Papers scattered across the rug, but she didn't even bend down to pick them up. What are you doing here? How did security let you in here?" Marcus rushed forward, stepping in front of Samantha with a deep scowl. "Hey, what is a fired copywriter doing sitting in the chairman's chair? Are you crazy, Vance? Get out of that seat before I call the guards." None of the board members moved. None of them spoke. The silence in the room was heavy and suffocating. "Watch your tongue, Mr. Sterling," Elena snapped, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "You are speaking to the founder, primary shareholder, and chief executive officer of Vance Media Enterprise, Julian Vance." Samantha stumbled back a step, grabbing the back of a chair to support herself. Her eyes were wide with utter horror. No, that's impossible. You're a broke loser. You worked in my office for 3 years for peanuts. You wore $50 suits." I leaned forward slowly, resting my elbows on the obsidian table and lacing my fingers together. I looked Samantha straight in the eyes, my expression unreadable. "I wore cheap suits because I wanted to see who you really were, Samantha," I said, my voice calm, deep, and steady. "And last night, you showed me exactly who you are, Julian." Samantha gasped, her voice trembling violently as the reality of her mistake crushed down upon her. I didn't know. You didn't know I owned your entire world," I said softly, leaning back into my leather chair. "Now, Miss Carter, let's talk about your company's bankruptcy." The silence in the boardroom was so thick you could hear the soft humming of the ventilation system. Samantha stood paralyzed, her hands trembling as she looked between me and the 12 stone-faced board members sitting around the obsidian table. "This is a joke, right?" Marcus suddenly blurted out, a desperate, nervous laugh escaping his lips. He stepped past Samantha, pointing an accusing finger directly at my chest. "You expect us to believe that this trashy copywriter owns Vance Media? He's pretending. He probably snuck into the building before the meeting started." Elena did not even flinch. She raised her hand, signaling 2 burly security guards standing by the double doors. "Mr. Sterling," Elena said, her voice dropping into a dangerous, icy register. "If you raise your voice at the CEO of Vance Media Enterprise one more time, my security team will toss you out of the 55th floor window." Marcus swallowed hard, his face turning pale as the guards took a step forward. He slowly lowered his finger, looking around the room for support, but every board member sat in absolute, rigid attention, waiting for my command. "Julian." Samantha's voice cracked. She took a step closer to the head of the table, abandoning her scattered papers on the floor. Her confident, arrogant posture from last night was completely gone, replaced by a desperate, wide-eyed panic. "Julian, please, let's talk about this privately. There's been a massive misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding, Miss Carter," I said coldly, adjusting the cuffs of my tailored charcoal suit. "You made your position very clear at the banquet last night." "No, you don't understand," Samantha cried out, taking another frantic step forward. Her eyes welled up with tears as she tried to force a soft, loving smile onto her face. I only did that last night because I was trying to protect you. I knew how hard you were working, and I didn't want Marcus to target you. I acted like that so Marcus wouldn't ruin your career." Marcus whipped his head toward her, his jaw dropping in absolute shock. "What? Samantha, what the hell are you talking about?" "Shut up, Marcus." Samantha snapped at him, not even glancing his way. She kept her frantic gaze locked entirely on me. "Julian, baby, you know how much I love you. 3 years. We spent 3 years together. I was just put in a hard position by the company board. I was thinking about our future. Our future." I let out a low, bitter laugh that echoed through the vast room. "You threw my engagement ring into the trash bin, Samantha. You called me a broke loser with no future in front of 200 people. I was acting," Samantha pleaded, her voice rising to a shrill, desperate pitch. She reached across the table, trying to touch my hand, but I pulled back slowly, keeping my expression entirely blank. "I swear I was acting. I love you, Julian. Please, we can sign the funding contract today, and we can forget last night ever happened. Carter Marketing can be our family legacy." Let's look at this funding contract, then, I said, sliding the blue leather portfolio across the polished table. Samantha's face instantly lit up with a flash of hope. She scrambled to pull out the main proposal pages, shoving them toward me. Yes, look at page 4. Marcus designed the entire financial restructuring model. It guarantees a 30% return on investment within 6 months. I picked up the document, skimming through the numbers with a cold, trained eye. After 10 seconds, I tossed the pages back onto the table like dirty rags. This proposal is complete garbage, I said flatly. Marcus's face flushed bright red. What? That is a state-of-the-art financial strategy. It's an amateur attempt to cover up a $12 million deficit. I countered, looking directly at Marcus. You inflated projected revenue by 200%, completely ignored tax liabilities, and funneled offshore assets to hide Carter Marketing's mounting debts. It's not a restructuring plan, Mr. Sterling. It's fraud. The board members began whispering among themselves, casting sharp, disgusted glances at Marcus and Samantha. Marcus looked like he was about to vomit. Julian, please, Samantha wept, her corporate mask crumbling entirely as tears ruined her makeup. If Vance Media doesn't release the $20 million emergency fund today, Carter Marketing will go bankrupt by the end of the week. Hundreds of people will lose their jobs. And who drove the company into the ground, Samantha? I asked, leaning forward, resting my hands flat on the desk. You prioritized grand banquets, luxury bonuses, and Marcus's fake prestige over the hard-working employees who actually kept the company alive. Give us one more chance, she begged, clutching her hands together. Please. I am not giving you a dime, I announced clearly, my voice echoing off the high walls. In fact, effective immediately, Vance Media is launching a full, unannounced internal audit of Carter Marketing. Every account, every receipt, and every transaction made under your tenure will be thoroughly investigated by my legal team. Samantha gasped, stumbling backward until her back hit the boardroom wall. An audit? You'll ruin us. You ruined yourself the moment you let greed guide your decisions, I said. I looked over at my executive assistant standing near the door. Send in the next appointment. The heavy double doors swung open, and Chloe Bennett stepped into the room, holding a simple portfolio. She looked nervous, glancing around at the massive executive boardroom and the high-powered executives. When her eyes met mine, her breath caught in her throat as she recognized me in my tailored suit. J. Julian, Chloe whispered, her eyes wide with total disbelief. Good morning, Chloe, I said, my tone softening into genuine warmth. Thank you for coming. What is she doing here? Samantha spat, her voice dripping with venom despite her desperate situation. She's just a junior designer. She is the only person at Carter Marketing who showed integrity, hard work, and human kindness, I replied firmly. I looked at Chloe, offering her a clear, confident smile. Chloe, effective today, I am offering you the position of lead creative director for Vance Media's global division. You will report directly to me, with a salary 10 times what Carter Marketing was paying you. Chloe stood frozen, her mouth slightly open, tears of shock and joy rising in her eyes. Julian, are you serious? I am completely serious, I said, standing up from my chair. Welcome to the real executive team, Chloe. I turned my eyes toward Samantha and Marcus, who stood like hollow statues in the middle of the room. As for you two, I said, my voice turning back into steel. Security will escort you out of my building now. The financial audit of Carter Marketing moved like a wildfire through the corporate world. Within 48 hours, my elite team of forensic accountants uncovered a trail of total corruption. The news broke early on a Tuesday morning, shattering whatever was left of Marcus Sterling and Samantha Carter's reputations. I sat in my high-back leather chair inside my private estate study, staring at the tablet screen on my desk. Chloe Bennett sat across from me, sipping hot tea as we reviewed the incoming news reports together. Look at this headline, Julian, Chloe said, turning her tablet toward me. Sterling Holdings just issued an official public statement. Read it to me, Chloe, I said, leaning back. Sterling Holdings explicitly denies any financial partnership with Marcus Sterling, Chloe read aloud, her eyes wide with amazement. Marcus Sterling is not an authorized heir or representative of the family enterprise. The company has formally cut all ties with him and supports full criminal prosecution. So Marcus was a total fraud. I noted, my voice calm. He lied about his family's financial backing to fool Samantha into making him vice president. It gets worse, Chloe added, scrolling through the legal filings. The audit revealed that Marcus embezzled over $3 million from Carter Marketing's operational accounts during his short time there. He transferred the money into offshore shell companies to cover his personal gambling debts. The police issued an arrest warrant an hour ago. And what about Samantha? I asked. Carter Marketing is crumbling, Chloe replied quietly. Once the news of Marcus's embezzlement and fraud hit the press, every major client canceled their contract. Her main investors backed out this morning. Her company's stock has crashed to zero, and the board is suing her for gross negligence. Before I could answer, my butler knocked gently on the heavy oak door of the study. He stepped into the room, holding a silver tray with a visiting card on it. Sir, the butler spoke politely. There is a young woman standing at the main gate of the estate. She is demanding to see you. She claims it is an emergency regarding Vance Media. Is it Samantha? I asked. Yes, Mr. Vance. Security asked if they should turn her away. I looked at Chloe, then back at the butler. No, let her in. It's time to put an end to this. Chloe stood up, holding her portfolio close. I can step out if you want privacy, Julian. Stay, Chloe, I said warmly. You earned your place here. You should see how this chapter ends. 5 minutes later, the study doors flew open. Samantha rushed in, looking completely unrecognizable from the confident CEO who had mocked me at the banquet 3 days ago. Her hair was messy, her eyes were red and swollen from crying, and her designer clothes were wrinkled and stained. Julian, Samantha cried out, running toward my desk. She didn't even notice Chloe, standing near the window. Julian, please. You have to help me. You are the only one who can save me. You're trespassing, Samantha, I said smoothly, not bothering to stand up from my seat. State your business quickly. It's Marcus. Samantha sobbed, clutching her hands together in front of her chest. He tricked me. He lied about everything. He lied about his family's money. He stole $3 million from my company. And now the police are taking everything I own. The press is outside my apartment, and my clients are abandoning me. You chose Marcus over hard work and loyalty, Samantha. I reminded her coldly. You made your choice based on greed. I was stupid, she screamed, dropping to her knees right in front of my desk, tears streaming down her pale face. She reached out, attempting to grab the edge of my trousers, but I pulled my chair back slightly, out of her reach. I was blind, Julian. I didn't see what was right in front of me. You are the powerful, wealthy man I always wanted. Please, sign the funding contract. Just give Carter Marketing $20 million. I will fire everyone. I will give you full control. I will be whatever you want me to be. Get up off the floor, Samantha, I said, my tone flat and devoid of any emotion. You look pathetic. Julian, please, she begged, wiping her wet face with the sleeve of her coat. We spent 3 years together. Doesn't 3 years of our life mean anything to you? You loved me. I did love you, I replied, looking down at her with pity rather than anger. I loved you enough to spend 3 years in a tiny cubicle, writing copy for minimum wage, just to build a genuine life with you. I was ready to give you the world. I had an engagement ring in my pocket that night. Samantha froze, her breath catching in her throat. Her tear-filled eyes widened in utter regret. And an engagement ring? Yes, I said, leaning forward. A hand-cut ring worth more than your entire company. But when you looked at me in that banquet hall, you didn't see a partner. You saw a broke loser. You threw my heart in the trash bin because you thought Marcus had more money. I made a mistake, she wept hysterically, hitting her hands against the carpet floor. Please, give me a second chance. I will marry you today. We can start over. You didn't make a mistake, Samantha. You revealed your true character, I said, standing up from my chair and turning my back toward her to look out the massive glass window overlooking the estate gardens. Karma didn't ruin you. Your own choices did. The audit will continue. Vance Media will acquire your failing assets for pennies, and you will answer for your poor management. Julian, don't do this to me. Samantha screamed as 2 estate security guards entered the study, grabbing her firmly by the arms. Take her away, I commanded quietly, without looking back. Julian, please, Julian. Samantha's desperate shrieks echoed down the long hallway until the front doors slammed shut, plunging the house back into absolute silence. I turned around to face Chloe, who was looking at me with deep respect. "Are you okay, Julian?" Chloe asked softly. I took a deep breath, feeling a massive weight lift off my chest. "I've never been better, Chloe. Let me call my sister. It's time to complete the final buyout." The paperwork was signed, stamped, and sealed before noon. Vance Media completed the total asset acquisition of Carter Marketing for a fraction of its original market value. With the signatures finalized, Samantha Carter was officially stripped of her CEO title, lost her controlling shares, and was left with nothing but mounting legal expenses and a disgraced reputation. I stood at the center of the main floor of the former Carter Marketing building. The dull, tense atmosphere that used to linger in the office was gone. Workers were smiling, light music played in the background, and new high-end equipment was being delivered to every cubicle. "Attention, everyone," I announced, standing beside a large digital presentation screen. The entire staff gathered around, including many of my former colleagues who used to ignore me when I was just an entry-level copywriter. As the owner of Vance Media Enterprise, I continued, looking around at the hopeful faces, I am officially rebranding this firm as the Vance Creative Hub. We are shifting our focus entirely away from corporate greed and vanity projects. From this day forward, talent, hard work, and integrity are the only metrics that matter in these halls. The room erupted into cheers and applause. "To ensure this vision comes to life," I said, stepping back slightly and pointing to the young woman standing proudly next to me, "I am officially appointing Chloe Bennett as the new Chief Executive Officer and Creative Director of this division." Chloe stepped forward as the crowd clapped wildly. Her eyes shone with gratitude as she looked at me. "Thank you, Julian," she whispered, her voice steady and confident. "I won't let you down." "I know you won't, Chloe," I replied with a warm smile. "You earned this." Later that evening, Vance Media held a massive press conference in the main auditorium of the Vance Media Tower to announce our new global direction. Hundreds of journalists, photographers, and industry leaders filled the room. Flashbulbs went off continuously as I stood on the grand stage alongside my grandfather, Arthur Vance, and my sister, Elena Vance. Vance Media Enterprise has reclaimed its core values. Arthur spoke firmly into the podium microphone, his hand resting on his silver-headed cane. "Under the leadership of my grandson, Julian Vance, our future has never been brighter." The auditorium applauded loudly. As the presentation wrapped up and the crowd began moving toward the reception hall, I walked down the center aisle flanked by my executive security detail. Suddenly, a commotion broke out near the velvet ropes at the edge of the aisle. Julian, please." I stopped for a brief second. Pushing through the crowd of reporters was Samantha. She looked frail and completely crushed, wearing a plain black dress, her face devoid of any color. Security guards immediately stepped in front of her, holding her back from reaching the walkway. "Julian, please just give me 1 minute." Samantha wept, her voice echoing over the murmur of the crowd. The cameras immediately turned toward her, capturing her moment of absolute desperation. "I am so sorry. I apologized publicly on news networks today. I told everyone the truth about how terribly I treated you. Please, just look at me." Reporters leaned in, pointing their microphones toward us, eager for a dramatic confrontation. Samantha stared at me, her eyes filled with a begging plea, hoping for even a shred of pity or anger. I adjusted the jacket of my tailored suit, took a slow, steady breath, and stared straight ahead. I didn't say a word. I didn't glare at her, nor did I offer a smile. I gave her complete, absolute indifference. I stepped forward and walked right past her, leaving her desperate cries behind me as the heavy doors of the VIP elevator chimed open. "Julian," her voice faded away as the thick doors slid smoothly shut. 10 minutes later, I stood inside my top-floor executive penthouse office. The floor-to-ceiling glass windows offered a breathtaking view of the city skyline, bathed in the gold and purple colors of the sunset. The double doors opened softly. Elena walked in, handing me a glass of sparkling water, while Arthur sat comfortably in one of the leather armchairs near the fireplace. A moment later, Chloe walked in, holding an approved outline for our global division's first campaign. "The press is having a field day, Julian," Elena said with a triumphant grin. checking her tablet. Samantha's public stunt completely backfired. The entire industry is praising your composure and leadership. She belongs to the past now, Elena, I said quietly, taking a sip from my glass. We have an empire to run. That we do, grandson, Arthur said, raising his glass toward me with a proud smile. That we do. Chloe walked over to the glass window, standing beside me as we looked out over the glowing city below. It feels different now, Julian. The whole company feels alive. It's only the beginning, Chloe, I said, looking out at the endless horizon. The pain of betrayal, the years of hiding in the shadows, and the humiliation at the banquet were all gone. The mask had fallen, the broken promises were left in the trash, and karma had settled every score. I took a deep breath, feeling total peace inside my chest for the first time in years. I turned the page on my past, ready to build my empire on my own terms.